Every signal and
continue on the subject we were discussing, if you don't mind. I hope you don't think me rude. One other point. Yes, sir.
It appears that Mr. Moore is quite happy for the church to intervene, provided they don't talk about unemployment, housing, inner city deprivation. But I would like to say that as far as Prince Charles is concerned, he is entering the political arena. And I feel that to ask the church to keep out of politics when surely Christ himself was crucified for his political convictions and what he was saying, which offended the Romans, is like asking, having a tonic without gin.
Okay, you've made your point with great clarity. Christ, Prince Charles, deal with it all.
I obviously have something terribly wrong, not only with my PR, but with my voice, because I said precisely the reverse of what you just said, sir. I entirely agree that the church must be involved. It was only the extent to which I thought it ought to be involved practically as well as publicly. And I would love to see a continuing involvement. I'm not one of those who actually finds criticism difficult. I find it interesting.
You were going to say, well, you're getting enough of it nowadays, aren't you?
Of course.
I have another word.
Well, I think the lady who asked the question who came back there, I think, was absolutely right. It is open to any church to say what it wants on any social or moral issue, and the church in any society must do so. But there is more than just the Church of England. And when the Baptists say something, or the Presbyterians, or the Methodists, or the Catholics, or whatever, it isn't the same political crisis that suddenly builds up. And that is because of this strange relationship that the Church of England has with the government and with the state. And I think it would be much healthier for all of us if the church was disestablished and became like any other church. Then it could say what it wants, appoint its own bishops without the Prime Minister or the Queen's permission or anybody. And then we'll have a variety of voices from different churches. Gordon Brown will pick the churches that support the Labour Party or attack the government. John Moore will pick the churches that support the Tories and attack the Labour Party. Politicians will act as normal, and maybe church-going people can get on with their everyday lives of going to a bigger variety of churches.
Okay, I'll, with your permission, or without your permission, I will move to Mr. Sean White, who is a solicitor, to take us into our final subject, which is a matter of some relevance this week.
Oh, good evening, Sir Robin. Does the panel think that the televising of the House of Commons is going to improve the standard of debates? And is it going to lead for better government?
Improve debate and better government. Chantal.
Well, I know somebody who this week was so delighted that he actually hugged the BBC lady who was next to him. That's what I read in the press, Sir Robin, about your enthusiasm at hearing that the Commons were going to be televised. Have I been misled or misinformed?
I don't know to what you're referring to.
Oh, well, I read in the press that you were so passionate about it.
I have advocated it for 30 years, but I'm not that passionate about it. But go on, yes.
Well, I think it is very, very good. First of all, we'll be able to see how many representatives are here and who is doing a good job and who is not. And, I mean, the National Assembly in France has been televised for God knows how many years. And all I can tell you is that it has really uplifted the level of debates. It has actually really encouraged people to turn up when they know that the cameras are there. It has filled the assembly. It has actually forced MPs and members of government to actually know what they're talking about. To really, I'm sorry, Mr. Moore. And,
Go on. You have the floor.
Thank you very much. And I don't think why the nation, shouldn't actually be allowed to see how the people that everybody has elected are actually flaring.
Does it result in better government, was the other limb of Mr. White's question.
I think it is also, and also it might encourage backbenchers and, MPs who don't often talk and we don't hear on radio or are rarely quoted in newspapers to actually do more work for their constituencies. It might encourage a lot of MPs to actually work harder, I think.
John Moore, you went into the anti-lobby, didn't you?
Yes, and I think I went into it because I was worried about the very points that I think were being asked by our solicitor friend. Some 13 or so years ago, we had a similar debate on the radio of Parliament. And I, at the time, argued that I would like to see an open radio channel, as well as having the ability for people to excerpt pieces. I thought if we didn't have that, we'd have what in fact people now think is Parliament, which is only excerpts from the noisiest Prime Minister's question time sessions, and people then have their illusion of what Parliament is. Most of the time, bluntly, I'm afraid it's very boring. Very tedious, lengthy speeches we all make to not very full chambers. So I was very concerned. I'm not particularly fussed if there were an open TV channel, as well as the ability to excerpt it. But by itself, I think it will actually do, and did you hear what actually Chantal said? We'll be able to see who is doing a good job. That's fascinating because that assumes that presence in the chamber is in fact a feature of actually being a good member of Parliament. Now, I don't, it's very difficult to argue against...
I think what Chantal meant was which minister looked as if he was doing a good job.
But, you see, Robin is...
Thank you for being my translator, I think.
Robin is compounding the problem. Appearance, ability to talk, the ability to communicate. Of course, these are all features in a modern democracy of the parliamentary process, but are they all? I'm not suggesting for one moment that there's something basically wrong in the classic sense of letting the public see, but I don't know that the answer will be that we'll have better government or better debates. My own feeling is that we may well have noisier debates, and certainly a few more people kind of grinning for the camera wherever it is, and as a consequence, I'm not sure we'll finish up with better government, and that's ultimately what I'm interested in.
But if you believe in the possibility of an all-Parliament channel, plus the excerpts taken out of it, why didn't you vote for the motion?
Well,
because the motion permits that.
No, Robin, we know what the motion actually will create, which is a 6-month trial with the same excerpting that we had from radio.
Okay.
That's what will happen.
Gordon Brown?
Well, I'm under no illusions that Parliament is going to be as popular as EastEnders or Dallas, even with its declining ratings. I think it'll probably come in somewhere between party political broadcast and the test card as far as viewer ratings are concerned. I think it confirms what people say about television, that you're forced to see in your living room people who you would never let through your front door, and that's how many people will see. But I voted for the televising of Parliament, and I did it because I think it'll make Parliament better and make government better. I think people have got a right to see those whom they have elected and make them properly accountable by watching them, scrutinising them, and television is, after all, the main medium in this country. I think it'll make for better informed debates, and I think it'll make MPs who tend to get lost sometimes in procedural points, points of order, nitpicking points, I think it'll make them address the issues that concern the nation. And I believe that we'll see better informed debate and therefore better scrutiny of the government. I think if we didn't televise Parliament, Sir Robin, that we would leave the impression that we were some small, private, exclusive club operating 19th century rules with public school rules of conduct, afraid to open itself up to the 20th century and perhaps with something to hide. And that's why I'm pleased we've decided to televise Parliament.
Andrew Neil.
Well, I'm looking forward to West Enders on television. And I think on some of the big debates, the audience could be quite big. And you see, John, all the arguments that were used against broadcasting television were precisely, in a different vein, the same arguments that were used in the 17th century against the press reporting Parliament. It's only been since the 18th century that the press has been allowed to report the debates. Yeah. And I think I worked as a lobby correspondent in the House of Commons in the 1970s. And the great problem for all these politicians of all parties is that they do treat the House of Commons as a club. And they think it's their club. And they don't realise that it's our Parliament. It's not their Parliament, it's our Parliament. And television is not the medium of the 20th and the 21st centuries. And we have every right to have the TV cameras in there. And if people behave badly, then we have the right to see them, and if we want to remove them. We put these politicians there in the first place. I don't think it's helped the Labour Party's case the way a lot of your backbenchers treat the Prime Minister at question time. I think that's actually helped the Prime Minister. That's just been a tactical mistake on your part. And if that's seen on your party's part, I mean, that's just my own view.
Well, let the people judge, which is why they want to televise it.
But let the people judge. And I think that it's our Parliament. The more politicians realise that we sent them there not to be part of an exclusive, largely all-male club, and that they are under public scrutiny, then the better. So I think it is a major advance for British democracy that the television cameras are now going to be allowed in.
Do you agree with Mr. Moore that the ideal way to do it would be to have what is called a dedicated channel on some cable or satellite channel, enabling Parliament to be on the air, Commons to be on the air all the time, and whether people liked it or not, they could turn in if they were interested?
Well, I'm quite happy to add another channel to the 20 on the satellite dish. I think that, of course, the best way to do it is, as they do in the United States, they have a channel called C-SPAN, which simply shows all the debates going on in Congress.
Mr. White.
That should be on all the time.
What do you think?
Well, I think it's going to be a good idea. I agree with what the majority of the panel has said. We've elected the people to be in Parliament. I can't see it can hurt them that we see what they're doing.
Do you answer your own question? Do you think it'll make behaviour worse?
No, I think it will improve behaviour. I think if they think everyone is watching them.
What about the fear expressed in the debate this week that people would make disruptive gestures more often in order to catch the cameras and all that sort of thing, both from the gallery and from the floor?
From both sides. I think that's probably may well happen, but I presume they've got security there that they can stop it happening.
Well, yes, they did. They had it in the House of Lords the other day, but it didn't work. Yes, the lady up there.
We all have a right to turn off our radio when we're listening to Parliament if we don't like the debate. We've all got the right to turn off our televisions.
Oh, thank you. I didn't realise you were... I'm sorry, I was waiting for you to develop that. Thank you very much.
I had a question for you, as a matter of fact, because what might be disruptive is the fact that there are 650 MPs on there. How many seats are there?
Oh, well, they're much fewer.
No, that's precisely right. They'll all want to be there now.
So who's going to go where?
We'll have to have a bigger chamber.
Well, yes, but the camera won't be able to see the whole show, right, like that portrait of the House of Commons. I mean, it won't be able to... There'll be very dull shots if they show 500 MPs all at once.
But it's going to be...
Nobody will be large enough to be seen.
It's going to be a bit like the Senate and the House of Representatives and the other places where Parliament is televised, or where the Assembly is televised. There's going to be a great deal of interest at the beginning. There's going to be a bit of playing to the gallery and exhibitionism, and that will happen. And gradually it'll cool down. Perhaps not cool down as much as the House of Lords, which seemed to come alive for a week and has fallen asleep for the rest of the century.
Let me take a show of hands. Could I ask those who think it is a good idea, in principle at any rate, to have a television experiment of the House of Commons? Well, that's the most almost unanimous and certainly the biggest vote I've ever seen in this Assembly. Mr. Moore, just one question, Mr. Moore. Do you not think it would be an advantage for the public to see Mrs. Thatcher, for instance, being cross-examined by Gordon Brown and Kinnock instead of by some non-elected fellow like me?
I have no doubt that Margaret will come across, the Prime Minister will come across extremely well.
That's not the question I asked. One never always asks the question you ask from him, but at the end of the day, I'm quite sure that, as far as I'm concerned, our government would do well from it. That isn't the question I think that was being asked. I think the question really related to the nature of the way in which the parliamentary process will or will not change as a consequence of the cameras being there. I think it will. I'm perfectly happy and I want to see it work, but I do actually think it will change the nature of the kind of people who actually go there, as well as the method of government. We have to leave it there. Thank you all very much. May I thank in particular our charming guest, not from France, because she lives in England. And next week's Question Time, we have Mr. Michael Howard, QC MP, Minister of State at the Department of the Environment, Margaret Hodge, who is Chairman of the Association of London Authorities and Labour Leader of Islington Council, Howard Davis, Controller of the Audit Commission, and Peter Riddle, who is Political Editor of the Financial Times. That's in next Thursday's Question Time, 10:10, BBC1. Good night now. Sleep well.
In Radio 4's Analysis tomorrow morning, Peter Hennessy will be talking to the Director General of the BBC, Michael Treckland, about issues of public service broadcasting. Analysis is on Radio 4 Long Wave at 11 tomorrow morning.
In this Sunday's Money programme, with Eurotunnel soon to provide a direct rail link to Europe, we look 5 years ahead to what could be the new age of the train, and ask whether British Rail will be able to grasp the opportunities the promised age will bring. Plus, the battle of the qualities, with The Guardian transforming its image and the other heavyweights fighting for circulation. We go behind the scenes of the crucial competition for advertising.
Brilliant. Just got 150 grand account from the Times.
That's the Money programme this Sunday on BBC 2 at the earlier time of 4:10.
On BBC1 now, a nostalgic return to the days of steam on the Somerset and Dorset Railway, in another showing of the programme which won last year's Royal Television Society's Regional Programme of the Year award. All change at Evercreech Junction.
The lorry rules the roads. They've grabbed the freight off the railways, they can bully their way into the traffic stream, and while we're down here, the driver's somewhere up there, cocooned in his cab. The railways saw it coming and were soon appealing to our common sense to tempt us back. On the whole, we took no notice. Well, we remained nostalgic about steam trains because once every little boy, and no doubt lots of little girls, wanted to be an engine driver. But it was all too late.
The steam engine